Hello, YouTube. I wanted to make a video to discuss mindfulness and the present moment as I understand it to be. One of my friends was asking me, because I'd been talking about my work philosophy and my life basically stage that I'm in right now. And basically, I have realized that after a few years of work, I've gotten to a point, which I mentioned in a previous video, that I believe I'm over the hill. Now, my um, idea or subject that's called being over the hill has to do with accumulating enough um, qualities and experience and knowledge such that you've made yourself valuable in society to a degree where you can relax as you see fit afterward to a certain degree, as long as the economy continues to be favorable and the GDP and the employment rate are staying favorable as well as a whole. I personally picked civil engineering as something to study because when I was just about to enter university and applying, we were going through a recession that had just started due to the housing market collapse in 2007/2008. I've been hearing on the news that the government of Canada was going to be investing heavily into the infrastructure development, and it made me realize that even in a downtime, there would still most likely be jobs for a civil engineer, and that made me feel quite comfortable uh, with the whole philosophy and path that I seem to have been naturally going on for a very long time. So basically, I thought that if I could have something that always kept me employed without having to stress out too much, that would be the bread and butter, the stressless environment that could keep me full and comfortable and very even-minded throughout the years of being employed. Now that relates to my over the hill concept. So if you work, for instance, 10 years, 5 years in a career, chances are after a while you could decide if you want to keep on moving up the ranks and the ladder of the corporation or business, or if you are comfortable with that position and maybe even leaving that employer and going to another employer that would really value your skills in that position. Because if you do stay with the same employer the entire time, maybe they'll want to push you or have expectations. But maybe after learning 5 to 10 years of experience, if you were to change your employer, you could actually um, be very valued, and changing your employer every few years as well, even if you want to stay in the same position and touch different environments or learn a few little skills, but also be able to not overextend yourself or stress yourself out because you become very competent in that position and you have a great skill set and you became the master of that situation. So that would be like a Robert Greene concept of, he has a book called Mastering. So really um, getting to a strong suit of your abilities in a certain environment can really cause a great reduction in stress overall. And especially if you realize it, that's the big thing. I remember I was looking up the net worth of a few celebrities a few years ago, and I saw it between ranging 30 million to 100 million. And for a second, I thought to myself, if I were aware one day that I had that amount of money, I might be able to realize that I was over the hill. I had enough money and experience and worth that I could relax my lifestyle tremendously afterwards, or as much as I see fit, and live a very interesting, fulfilled, and passion oriented lifestyle afterward. So to me, that's what I'm trying to get at. And that's what the present moment to me and mindfulness is about. It's when you get to that point where you realize what life is about. This can be in many ways. I just feel like getting to that over the hill mindset can get you in the present moment. It's not necessary. It's just, it's a very clear example to that whole concept of realizing that you don't have to have anxiety about the future when it comes to your career necessarily, especially if you live in a good, strong economy, which I have known. Maybe a lot of people don't have that, and I can understand the anxiety. But someone that would be capable of reaching the present moment and being very mindful at all times is realizing what they do have and deciding if they want to accept that and not going against the current. So I have a friend that I've been speaking with, and he is very interested in starting up something quite elaborate and quite involved to do with like project management, let's say, a consultant service by himself. And he at the age that he is it's going to be an endeavor because he's going to be competing against people that potentially have been working their entire life towards this and are very passionate and have a lot of assistance perhaps from their network. Everything was just aligned, kind of like me playing hockey my entire life and then uh, excelling in that afterwards, or starting up something when I'm younger and just keep on growing. That's an accumulation of knowledge that is very hard to um, accumulate in a short period of time without a lot of stress and a lot of failure possibly associated with, and the slow progress of all that time that that other individual might have done their entire life, those failures won't impact them as much because percentage wise, it's very small compared to the amount it could reoccur in a short period of time while trying to jump stages very quickly in a career. The network as well, that would be very difficult to create in a short period of time compared to a long term effort and application. So basically, if you wanted to become mindful, I think you should I think it's that moment that you're able to step back and assess your life and say, okay, where has the current been against me and where is the current with me? And if you were to point out all those things, I'm talking about after a good amount, like between the ages of 30 and 40, where you had the opportunity in your 20s to develop your life as much as you thought was healthy, and you don't have to beat yourself up about it. And this will be something else I'll talk about that I got from the Actualized video, advice for all young people. I'll talk about that later, though. Basically, just realizing uh, the life that you had threaded for yourself and the lowest standard of living that you have provided for yourself to limit or or give a lot of acceleration to your network and things that you can touch due to the lifestyle that you lead. But basically, going back to the mindful part, just realizing that, just coming to that moment, that epiphany, that quarter life crisis, that mortality realization is very healthy because um, you can then say, okay, where is the current in my life? And do I want to keep on fighting it? If I do continue to fight it, do I have a rational um, fallout plan so that I'm not crushed? And how do you make each breath of each day and year acceptable? And I think it all comes to surrendering, saying, okay, I've threaded all of my decisions of my life to lead to this. I might have been subconsciously, but I did it, and I'm here now. Do I want to fight? Do I have the energy? What do I have that I can be grateful for? What can I use to be happy about and feel very full? So it could be that you were doing a position for a long time that wasn't leading anywhere, but you made a conscious decision to do so. And if you want to reinvent your life, um, how much is the current against you? What kind of contact? Like I was always context do you have? I was always planning on doing or listening to the idea of doing an MBA after I finished my undergrad in civil engineering. And then I came to the reality that I didn't have many contacts in the higher level of business. So I could do something like that and perhaps meet a lot of people. The energy alone to do it would be I have to do a GMAT. beforehand, which means I have to study like crazy while I'm already exhausted from doing an undergrad and capable of making money. So there's an opportunity cost involved with all that study time where I could be making money. Um, do I really think that I'm going to learn that much in a year and a half to 2 years in an accelerated program to become very valuable in business? Do I even have any skills to date that are going to be appealing to that kind of sector? When I'm competing against a bunch of people that might have done their bachelor's in commerce, among other things, among other knowledge, just like going back to the example of my friend, have I had that interest my entire life? Is this going to be completely new information and I'm not even going to absorb it, most of it? And it's going to require a great, um, um, it's going to require a lot of in depth and thorough um, exposure to even be able to appreciate the material. I can't even tell you anything I did in engineering at the moment. You give me a question, I wouldn't even know how to solve it. I'm numb because I prioritize so many other things in my life. So also recognizing what else you're prioritizing in your life that would make it difficult to even attain those goals. So I just think a very rational assessment, when you get to that moment, when you start saying, okay, where am I in life? How am I happy? Am I judging myself? Like Eckhart Tolle says, am I saying, how can I live with myself? And then all of a sudden you realize there's two people, how myself and I. When and the fact that you're actually being hard on yourself. If you realize you're being hard on yourself, then I should be talking to myself like that. And obviously there's like an ego involved. So to try to like calm that ego, when you get to that point when you have a genuine energy to want to do that, it would be very wise to sit down for a second and really spread out everything in a rational context so that you could actually um, follow up with a good realization and digest everything that you've done subconsciously, everything you've done consciously, everything you've threaded through your life to limit yourself, or everything that you've avoided and everything you've prioritized instead of those goals, so that you don't beat yourself up. And once you get to that surrender and acceptance, then saying, okay, am I over the hill in any way? Is the current against me? Is the current with me in any way? And do I honestly want to dedicate time, like Benjamin Franklin talks about time being the most valuable currency? Really focus on that. Don't for a second think that that's not the case. Time can be taken away from you. I remember when I was at U Ottawa University that I went to, I was working as a server at a very expensive retirement home. I'd meet all these doctors and engineers and lawyers and other business people, just successful people that were paying a significant amount of money to live there and be taken care of in their retirement years. And I hear about their children dying at a young age, or I think that was a big exposure to mortality, seeing people for a few months and then them passing away and realizing, just like Hamlet says, as he holds that skull, this skull could have been the skull of a king or a homeless man. It tells no story now. These people are mortal, and it's only their memories and their consciousness that are going to have any kind of connection to what they had and what they didn't have in life. It's very complex. I'm starting to realize all the nuances and networks involved with everything that I'm saying right now. But basically, I believe that beyond all the complicated things I've added just now, to go back to the original subject matter, when you get to that point of enlightenment, when you realize your mortality and you say, what do I want for the rest of my life? When you go through that quarter or half life crisis to a certain degree, you can just step down and say, where's the current with me? Where is it against me? What have I done to thread my life this way? Was it subconscious? What was conscious? And try to get to a point of surrender. And that will give you a present enlightenment so that you can really accept the rest of your life and stop focusing and having depression. As Tim Ferriss says, depression is issues with your past, anxiety is issues with your future that you're holding on to. So let go of your depression and also let go of your anxiety, because you are living in the present moment, realizing that you can make yourself over the hill no matter what level in life you are, because you subconsciously chose to get there due to the amount of risk you took, due to the life that you decided to live, where you decided to rent, what car or not car, bike you decided to use, what kind of friends that led to. Everything could have been pushed. You had the energy when you were young and maybe you didn't use it. And maybe you're an introvert, maybe you're an extrovert. Realize your personality type and don't be too hard on yourself. You didn't, as the existentialists would say, you were thrown into this world. You did not decide to be who you were. There's no book to life. And even if there was, you might have a deaf ear to even decide to read it for a long part of your life. And even when you get to that point of existential crisis or quarter life crisis or anything like that, maybe your ear will become attuned, and that will be a time to start putting a little bit of effort, and don't be too hard on yourself. There's a parable that I read from the Bible, which is the vineyard owner. And basically, this man has a vineyard, and he wakes up in the morning and realizes there's a lot of work that he has to do. So he goes out to the town and he finds a bunch of people to work, and he offers them the currency of 1 denarius to work the day, and they're happy to accept. And then halfway through the day, he notices, oh, I'm not going to accomplish all the work I need to get done. I'll go back to the city and get more people. So he does so and offers them 1 denarius again for the remainder of the day. Then at a quarter of the day left, he goes out to the city and he finds more people just to get all the work that he knows will not get accomplished if he doesn't get them. And he offers them 1 denarius as well. And then even a few minutes before the end of the day, he realizes the work's just not going to get done, goes out, gets a few more guys, finishes, and gets them to work and offers them the same amount of currency. And then when the day is done completely, he lines them all up and gives them all 1 denarius each. And the people that would work the entire day start complaining, saying, how come they're paid the same amount? And he tells them, I told you how much you are going to get paid, and you accepted it. That is my choice. But to me, that's like, it doesn't matter how long you're aware of these things. You're still going to get the same reward. It's not a time thing. It doesn't matter. You're blind to it before, anyways. You're deaf to it before, anyways. Whenever you get struck with that moment that you decide to seek mindfulness or being in the present, that's a valuable time. It's not a matter of how much time did you waste and how much time do you have left. It's a great thing to reach enlightenment, and it's up to you what you want to do with it. Personally, I'm using it as a way to really look at life in the way that I think is very rewarding and peaceful, and it doesn't really angst me anymore to think about the future because it's not in my hands, and I'm very content with everything I have done in my life up until now, due to the fact that I watched that actualized video, advice for young people, and he explained a lot of important things to me. So thank you for listening and have a great day.